unfamiliar territory tonight, fighting for attention. For 4 days now, President Biden's historic decision to step out of the 2024 race and endorse Vice President Kamala Harris has all but erased Trump's dominance over the news cycle, or, as political campaigns see it, his dominance over free media. It's an advantage that the Harris campaign has been using until they are up and running with ads of their own. And it's an advantage that, as the New York Times points out tonight, Trump has long enjoyed. My source on this tonight is Trump's former White House communications director, who knows all too well about his place in the headlines, Anthony Scaramucci, who's also the author of From Wall Street to the White House and Back. And Scaramucci, it's great to have you here tonight. I want to talk to you about, Trump being pushed out of the headlines of the news cycle. But I do want to get your response first on Trump's statement tonight, backing out of the general election debates until after the Democratic nominee is official, even though the DNC is before the next scheduled debate. Vice President Harris just responded to the campaign statement saying, quote, "What happened to any time, any place?" That's, of course, a reference to Chris LaCivita, who is one of the co-chairs of Trump's campaign, who had on business cards printed out anytime, anywhere, any place when it talked about debating President Biden. Do you think he's trying to back out totally?
No, but I think it's apropos to this segment. I mean, he wants attention, so he knows if he puts that out there, the mainstream media is going to talk about it, and they're going to be thrilled. Maybe he's going to pull out of the debate. There's no possible way he could pull out of the debate. Okay, half of his base are misogynists, and how is he going to pull out of the debate? Is that going to be able to say to them, "Hey, geez, I'm really sorry, I couldn't debate the first woman, African American, Indian presidential candidate"? There's just no possible way he's going to be able to do that. So he'll debate her, but he is searching for how to combat her. He hasn't been able to figure that out yet. He's also trying to figure out how to get his name back in the news and on the top half of the broadsheet newspapers.
So you think this is just him trying to get media attention?
Yeah, no question. Yeah, there's 100%. Take it to the bank. He will debate her. Will it end up on ABC News? I'm not sure. Could they pick a more neutral venue in his mind? It probably won't be on Fox News. It may not be on ABC News, but 100% those two campaigns are going to agree on a venue, and they're going to have at least one debate, possibly two.
So when I hear, I talked to Pete Buttigieg the other night. He was, not appearing as transportation secretary, but just as a member of the Democratic Party. And he said that he thinks Trump is actually scared to debate Harris and that it wouldn't ultimately potentially come to fruition because he wouldn't know, really how to combat her on the debate stage. And he has struggled with that on the campaign trail. I mean, you saw him in Charlotte, North Carolina yesterday, kind of trying out different nicknames for her, different lines of attack, but nothing really one sustained message like he's been successful with his opponents in the past.
So I would say that Secretary Buttigieg is right. He's probably afraid to debate her, but that's not going to stop him from debating her. He knows his electorate, his base, as well as anybody. He knows he will never be able to survive the attacks, that he wasn't capable of debating her. And there's no excuse that he can come up with that can prevent that from happening. But Pete Buttigieg is correct, and I think this is true about the whole situation, is that the entire demography of the country has changed. And so President Trump, he can call her nasty. I guess he can say things like she's dumb as a rock. All that's going to do is cause the women of this generation and very frustrated, angry men to line up and vote against them. This is not 2016, Caitlin. 20.2 million baby boomers have died since that election. 40 million Generation Xers have arrived ready to vote. And 63% of those are Democrats. So his team knows that. They know the data. He's sitting there trying to figure out how to attack her, but he's never going to get away with the attacks that he put on Secretary Clinton 8 years ago. So it'll be interesting to see what happens. But he is in the Bermuda Triangle right now of inattention, and it's really bothering him. But I'm sure he's happy that you and I are talking about him tonight and the possibility that he may or may not debate Vice President Harris, which, of course, he's going to.
Well, I think you make a good point about, what's changed in going up against a woman in a presidential election in 8 years and how that landscape may look different. One thing that Trump seems bewildered by is not only how Biden came out and endorsed her and how quickly all of this has happened, which I think has surprised Trump and his team from what I've heard. They thought there would kind of be more of infighting in the Democratic Party. There'd be a lot more chaos for them to kind of have a moment to deal with. But he's been saying, not only that Biden endorsed her, but that he picked her as his vice president, given Harris's attacks on Biden during the primary. Listen to what Trump said about this.
She was the meanest person up there. She was meaner to him than anybody else. She accused him of being a racist with the buses. And then when he chose her, I said, how do you do that?
I wonder what you make of that, given Trump has just picked someone to be his running mate who once called him, a moral disaster, reprehensible, questioned if he was America's Hitler, which Vance says his mind has changed on. But he did at one point say some incredibly critical things of Donald Trump.
Caitlin, maybe Trump liked those things. Maybe he thought those were compliments. Listen, he didn't go with Nikki Haley. When he loses the election and they do the post obituary of the election and they're in the morgue looking at the body of the lost election, they'll say, wow, that was a terrible mistake not to go with Nikki Haley. He could have appealed to a broader base of people, to women, to more independents, but he didn't. He went hard MAGA. He went with a strange guy that's very dull on stage. And, Trump hates that. You covered him in the White House. I work with him in the White House. There's nothing that Trump hates more than dull people. And, JD, I think, stands for just dull. And so he is not doing well on the stump for Donald Trump. He's hurting him. The memes on social media are killing him. The net negatives are terrible for the vice president. The vice president in a Trump campaign is supposed to get out of the way, and he has become an issue for Donald Trump. So, he could have picked Nikki Haley or he could have picked somebody, but Trump is such a narcissist. He didn't want anybody taking credit for his electoral success. He didn't want somebody on CNN saying, yeah, he won that and Nikki Haley helped him. And so he picked J.D. Vance, and now he's got to live, at least for now, with this millstone on his neck. I mean, he may or may not make it to November 5th, J.D. Vance.
You think Trump could maybe replace him?
I do, yes. I mean, that's what The Apprentice is all about, Caitlin. Of course, I've had that experience with Donald Trump. I do think he could. It's just a question of how many Scaramucci's JD is going to last. Well, we've got the shot clock on right now.
Okay. Well, I think he technically counts as being at 1 at the moment. I think today may be day 11. We'll Anthony Scaramucci, thank you as always.
We'll keep track of it, Caitlin.
Thank you very much. Coming up, you heard Mr. Scaramucci there referring to Nikki Haley on those Republican attacks on Vice President Harris. They've been claiming she's a DEI hire. Hear what Haley has to say about that. Plus, we have new comments from those who are vying to be Vice President Harris's running mate, which all